Hello and welcome to Rise and Shine with Alissa. I am your hostess, the consultress, here bringing you interesting conversations with amazing entrepreneurs, investors, and parents to inform your new age of decision making. Decision making? Easy for me to say. Anyway, we are in the age of disruption, ladies and gentlemen. So everything is new and up for review. Nothing's going back to normal. And what has informed my life are the very conversations that I bring to you here, my strategic partners, people that I meet through my pursuit of business, and how other people are thinking, iterating, and pivoting in today's business climate, today's living environment. So I get to introduce you to awesome people that I have the pleasure and the privilege of knowing and speaking to on a regular basis. So without further ado, Milo Shapiro, welcome to Rise and Shine.
Thank you. I'm glad your decision making had led to me being. I
Yes.
jotted down decision making while you were talking, so I wouldn't forget the phrase.
And
That's
we're
a
here
lot
to
of
have
pressure. You
fun,
said I had to
right?
be interesting. I didn't know that. Maybe we should start over.
Take two. I'm
Thank
just kidding. This is one take to production here. So
you.
we met once upon a time in a virtual networking space, and we got an opportunity to get to know each other. You said what you said that like rang true for me was like, "Oh, you sound like home," and I was like, "What do you mean?" And you immediately were like, "That accent sounds like where I'm from," and so. Thus began a beautiful friendship in business.
And
So
not just your accent, but your energy. There's a lot of back. It was an adjustment getting to California. Now I'm sort of both worlds. I love California. I don't want to live anyplace else. I'm very happy here. But every once in a while, New York energy just feels like home.
That's right. You can take the girl out of New York, but you cannot take the New York out of the girl.
Or this
Um,
boy.
and this is what I'm saying. Like, so that energy of New York for you, that feels like home. Open that up for me a little bit. What does that like energy signify?
Sure. And I've found over the years living in California, I'm here since I don't even want to do the math, but since 89. And I still find that I tend to make the best friends with transplants. That how we pace ourselves, how we think, there isn't, I mean, I'm just never chill. It's just not who I am. And I like people whose minds are active, and all of a sudden you look at your clock and you go, we've been talking for 2 hours. Where did that time go? Rather than having to pull it out of people. And I've met lovely Californians, don't get me wrong, but most of them tend to be people who've come from other places who find their ways into my life. And what's great about the fact that we're such a Zoom world now is I'm making more and more friends who aren't here. Until Zoom, I didn't. I had old friends, but I didn't make new friends who weren't from here, and now I do.
Yeah, and being in business and making friends, sometimes the lines get really blurry, don't they?
Mhm.
Because the people who you
Yes.
have an affinity for tend to be the people you're going to want to do business with, right?
Not only colleagues, very true of colleagues, not like the two of us, but clients. Because of the nature of coaching, you get to know people, you get close to them, and sometimes I have to like, how far do I take this before? Because I have one client now where I'm almost on the border of, I feel bad almost charging her because like she came to see my play when it was produced, and I found out she didn't have any plans for Thanksgiving, so I ended up inviting her. She said no because she did find something at the last minute with people she knew, but you just start to like people. I mean, hopefully, who wants to work with people they don't like?
No one. No one does. Here's the thing that's like this myth that the industrial age mindset has given us that anyone can do any job, just look for the best price. A bullshit. Like, no effing way. One of my favorite clients, after we stopped working together, she was the first friend that came to visit me out in my new home. I
Oh
moved 5
wow.
hours off Long Island to Western PA. She was the first one that was like, "Can I come hang out? Do you mind if I stay over?" And I was like, "Oh my God, yes." But like, this is what I'm saying about like the life work balance. In life there is no boundary. It is just relationship and how you can be of value and service to people, and that does change over time. It can evolve, and if you don't let it evolve, then you're really not continuing to stay on that growth edge or on the path of continuing to look for ways to solve new problems.
Yeah.
Because I've had clients that have stayed with me for years, but the nature of our engagements always develop and change over time depending on what it is they're looking to achieve. They sometimes come in my door of, I want to build a passive income real estate business, and then they wind up wanting to be on Shopify and sell merchants as an online business. So you know you're here for the transformation as a coach. And sometimes we put these prescriptions on it, like it has to be in this program. How do you allow people to come into your like ecosystem when it comes to the work that you do?
I define what you mean by allow them to come in. I just want to make sure I'm following you.
So it could be how do people usually become a lead for you,
Okay,
or how do
you are.
people get introduced to your work?
I wasn't sure if you meant personally versus work. Okay. So I'll be honest, for all of the networking that I do, for all of the promotions that I do, and the occasional cold calling I do, most of the work I get is through SEO. People hitting my website and saying, I need someone to help me improve my speaking. And just, we haven't gotten to that yet. I do have a few things, but I'm primarily a public speaking coach. So whether people have a one-time speech that's coming up or they want to improve in general, maybe there's a speech they give on a regular basis, they could be in sales, whatever it is that makes them feel like I need to be better. That's what I do to help people. And if they know they want that, the first thing they're going to do is Google it or go to Yelp. Yelp would be my second place that I mostly get work from, but it's more Google. And as much as it doesn't matter where people are because I'm primarily working with people on Zoom nowadays. It's infrequent that I even meet other San Diegans in person. Sometimes we do, but it's because they type in speaking coach San Diego because they think they need to be in person until we talk and then discover it's really not necessary. But they're finding me, or they're going to Yelp and it's looking within their 20-mile range or whatever it is, and they're seeing a bunch of little pins and they click on me. So that's where I'm getting most of the people who work with me, thankfully. The good thing about that is it happens. The bad thing about it is I'm reliant on it. If it doesn't happen that day, there isn't any business. So that's why I'm also in networking where I met you and things like that to try and create business and speaking in places to try and get exposure. If it's a good potential client fit. For instance, IT people are great for me. They're often terrible speakers, and they know it. They didn't get into IT to speak, and then suddenly they have to explain their project to their teammates or their client or management. So I love IT. So I spoke to an IT group just for the sake that, sure enough, I got two or three leads out of it.
Yeah, and so I love that the speaking coach dinged me on my intro that I slurred my words together.
Yeah, but you handled it perfectly. You
But you
laughed at
know,
yourself and moved on. That's good.
right. But this is the thing about making mistakes, especially in front of an educated audience, is people are so afraid to make mistakes that they make more of them. Right. Have you found that phenomenon? I'm so worried I'm going to make a mistake, and then
Yes.
inevitably you end up tripping over the mistakes as they come. My husband says the same thing. He's not a public speaker and he doesn't want anything to do with it. But when he's calm and comfortable, like it flows out of him. He's very articulate. But when it comes to having to be put on the spot, like that pressure alone creates the environment where mistakes are made. So like I found for myself needing to do presentations, some of my practice up front is to listen to other things that I've done so that I hear my own words and my own way of connecting the dots so that I'm comforted by my style first. And this took a while. Like my first few, I was recording myself into this, tape recorder. I'm dating myself, but I'm recording into a tape recorder and then going back to it and going, oh God, that sounds like, and I'm judging and I'm judging. So, how do you take people from that space of like self-judgment and discomfort and like so nervous that they're going to trip over all the possible mistakes into a place of like confidence and ease with speaking?
My gosh, there was like nine questions in there. I'm gonna try and figure out where to jump in because as you were
Find a
talking, like, yeah,
spot and swim.
yeah, yeah, I bet, yeah, okay. So, I find that most people who don't think they're good, there's a good reason for it. They were never shown how. And I think it's unfair. I don't think there are too many talented speakers. I think there are people who intuit the things that the rest of us need to learn to catch up with them. If you intuit them, you look talented. But nobody teaches us those basics to get good. And so when people work with me and they go, "Oh, I can do that," and then they do it, I'm like, "What do you think they would?" Yeah, that was better. They build that confidence and they build that ability to think I can be good by learning what to do and changing. It's not that hard once they know how for most people. Some clients pick up on things fast, some take longer. And that's one of the things I love about coaching as compared to teaching classes is if it takes someone 3 sessions to get something and something else they pick up in 10 minutes, great. Everything is adjusted for them. Can't do that in a course setting. So coming back to how do you build up that confidence, one of the things that's great about coaching is I can sometimes say to people, you can stop rehearsing page one. You've got that down. I do. Yes. You don't need to listen to it. I mean, once in a while, refamiliar. It's page two that's still kind of a mess. Can we look at page two? Because I'll be direct with them. I don't think I'm cruel, but I'm direct. So they learn because I'm direct that when I'm complimentary, I mean it. And that gives them a chance to actually build confidence. Because if I ever kept going, you're great, oh, it's great, you can do it, why would they believe me? But the nature of saying this is where we need to work, we make changes, and I say, Alyssa, how did that feel? Yeah, that felt more like me. I say, yeah, because the way you wrote it sounded like a textbook. It didn't sound like how you would talk. One of the things I've had to learn over time is how to listen to the person, get a sense of their voice and speaking style. So if we're looking at a script, and that's a whole nother time, who should script, who should not script, another topic. But if we're looking at a script, this doesn't sound like Alyssa. This might have sounded like Ellen. I could have written this for Ellen, but this doesn't sound like Alyssa. So to be able to word things in ways so that when you go back and say it again, how does that sound? That felt like me. That's one of my favorite comments. Yeah, that feels more like me than what I wrote myself. So that's something I can help people with. I hope I answered your question in there. There was a lot.
I'm pretty sure you did. I loved, getting a sense for the style of the person and, being able as a coach to get very customized with someone. I think this is what a lot of folks are missing in this course heavy world. I'll learn that. I'll read the book, then I'll take the course, then I'll take the notes, and I'll do it myself. They forget, or maybe it's not as apparent, that hiring a coach helps you to develop your skill in the space where you need support and helps you to leap over the stuff that you've already got nailed.
Yeah.
I
I've had
hired,
so many people say to me, I can't believe in 5 sessions how far we got. I took classes for years. I joined Toastmasters for years. And nothing against Toastmasters. I got a lot out of it too in the 6 years I spent there. But when people say to me, I want to improve my speaking skills for work, should I join Toastmasters? I said, well, when is your speech? Oh, it's in 4 months. I'm like, then you needed to join Toastmasters back in 2020. You're too late. Uh,
that's a whole nother story.
yeah, it's that way, but we make the progress really quickly. I remembered one of the points you made. I knew there was something I felt like I hadn't mixed. You actually stepped into something that was right in my wheelhouse. Couldn't think of the word. Um, I give two keynote speeches more than anything else. One is the one named after the book, Public Speaking, Get A's, Not Z's. But the other one is the one I got into speaking from, and that one's called We Gotta Fail to Succeed. And it's about moving past the fear of failure and not being so hard on ourselves, because I always feel like we should be looking at direction, not perfection. The strive for perfection keeps us stuck, and I can't do this because I'm not perfect yet. Well, what if you could be good? Not perfect, but good. And good is a great place to start. What if you could be pretty good and good the next time? How are you going to get there if you don't? And my background is in improvisation. And one of the wonderful things you learn in improv is you ain't never going to be perfect. There was two improv companies in town, and one strove for perfection, and I always thought that their shows were 100% okay. There was nothing brilliant, but they
100%
always
not
met the
awesome.
goal because no one was taking any chances because they knew they were going to get dinged afterwards for making mistakes. In theater sports, the troupe I was in, our goal was that about 30% of the show should fail. Because if less than 30% of the show failed, we weren't taking enough chances and nothing brilliant was really happening. And the audience will forgive the 30% as long as 70% is really good. And if we come out and go, well, that last thing didn't work, let's try something else. And they go, oh, good, he didn't even think that was good. That's okay then.
Yeah, I love the ability to take risks and be willing to surrender to what shows up. This
Hmm.
is the thing that resilience and success is really built upon.
Yeah.
Being willing to take those risks. I remember growing up in a family business and knowing like my role was to be the best counter person and to be the most bubbly personality to the customers that were coming in. And we had to work clean because the closers were the people who were going to have to clean up the mess after the rush came in. And so I had all of these very high bar. I didn't know they were high bars. I'm like, this is just what I'm supposed to be doing. The alternative to not taking a risk to be better was to be the boss's daughter who could sit there and do nothing and just earn a paycheck because she's little miss whatever. And so like I had two very polarizing opposites. I could take the risk to be lazy and labeled, which was not part of my identity, or I could go for that impossible, like, I'm going to make sure every customer leaves here happy. I'm going to make sure all the floors are spotless and the walk-in case is brilliant by the time I leave, so that I can feel good that I'm making progress. So like that internal reward for taking a risk and doing something better over time, like that is the habit that has stayed with me through my life, through and got me through some of these entrepreneurial leaps and bounds that I have. Like, man, we bet the farm. Like, my husband and I bet our entire wedding gift pot of money to train me in human potential training.
Mm,
It was a huge risk. Like,
yeah.
we bet it all on the fact that, like, I could probably be good at this business thing in coaching and training people. Luckily it
And if
panned
you
out.
hadn't, you would have always wondered. The way I got into my business was to take a severance package. And I always just said, I wish they had just fired me. That would have made things so simple. But no, it was an option. So you could take the package or not. And I walked away from, I mean, we're going back to 1999, but just shy of six figures. That was, and 4 weeks vacation. I mean, it was a good job, but I didn't want to be in a cubicle doing IT the rest of my life. And so I had to, it was just so nerve wracking to say, wow, but if I don't do this, I will spend forever wondering what could I have done as an entrepreneur. And, I've had years where I've done as well, new years where I haven't, but I've never regretted walking away. But it was the scariest thing I've ever done.
Yeah. And if you're not on your growth edge, somebody said in a presentation last week, I think you were in the room for it, and I have it written here on my whiteboard, is do something you fear every day. The
Like
quote was
that.
by Eleanor Roosevelt. And I thought, now that is a lifestyle statement. That is what I have been doing. Maybe not every single day, but when you take the risk to bring value into this world, to put your experiences and your intellectual property out into the world, you face the opportunity for rejection. You face the opportunity for not being as smart as you thought you were. You face the opportunity to, like, have to put your head between your legs and admit defeat.
Yeah.
So, like, there are all of these reputation risks to ourselves that we take as we endeavor to be entrepreneurs, but that is what makes it great. If there is no risk, there's also no reward. Like, if Steve Jobs never created Apple, like, we wouldn't be having this conversation on this very device right here, because
Well,
it
I
was
would.
the
I'm on a PC, but
we
I'd
can
be
have the
talking to no
Android
one.
Apple conversation if you want. I have all, but I'm an equal opportunity device person. This one happens to be a Mac. But what I'm saying is, that risk, you think you're like, the risk taking part of our brain tells us, if you take a risk, you're going to die. Like, that is what it translates to emotionally, is like death, death, death. But once we get used to taking risks, we know that death is not imminent. The more often you do it, the more comfortable you get at knowing it's probably going to be okay. In fact, it might be better. In
Yeah.
fact, it might be really awesome. And
And
getting
tying
to
that back
that
to public
place.
speaking, everybody feels like they could just die up there, and you don't. You get better at it, you improve, you start to see the audience's reaction getting better, and we have to break that vicious cycle. Well, because what it starts with is, I never learned how to be a speaker. Oh, someone makes me do it. I was terrible. That didn't go well. I must not be a good speaker. Oh my gosh, I'm being made to do it again. And now I know I'm a terrible speaker. Now I get nervous and I blow it again. And so we get that. So we got to break that cycle by showing you, oh, there's things I could do. That went better than last time. They seem to like that. Maybe I'm not so bad. I can handle this. And then we start a positive, whatever the opposite of a vicious cycle is, an unvicious cycle, a positive cycle of people going, this is in my wheelhouse. And people are always saying, it's so weird. Ever since we started working together, these opportunities to speak keep coming up. I'm like, no, they were always there. They weren't on your radar because you didn't see yourself as a speaker. Suddenly it's in your world and you're seeing what's there for you. And then they're jumping at it. One of my favorite clients, the one I mentioned earlier, Ellen, I've been working with her on and off for years. She contacted me because she was at a staff room table once a week. And she said, I always was bad, but I hoped I'd at least be bad at the beginning. Because if I was at the end of the round table, I would sweat through my uniform waiting for it. And then that nervousness made me even worse. And so we worked together a bunch. She discovered her ability. She got much better. And one day the commanding officer said, by the way, the admiral's coming in and you're going to brief him on the Tijuana border situation. She said, no, 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 no. I'm the one who was so nervous I had to get a speaking coach. He goes, I don't care if you're nervous or not. You're the best one here now. She didn't even know that was in her. So she got the opportunity. She presented to the admiral. And on his way out the door, she's thinking, "Whew, that's over with." He looks back and goes, "By the way," and doesn't talk to her. He talks to the commanding officer in front of her. He says, "By the way, she was very good. I understand this now. She should be the one to brief the congressman." And he walks in. She's like, "I don't want to brief a congressman." Commanding officer says, "You don't get to say no to the admiral." Two more appointments to get ready for the congressman. She prays. He says nothing on the way out the door. He doesn't. He leaves, and she thinks, "Thank goodness that's over with." He doesn't say a word. He sends an email. "This is so much clearer now. I finally get what's going on there. She should brief the White House." So
Woo!
she went from her coworkers to the White House in 3 steps. And my point of this isn't just that she did well with that, which she did. I'm sure she did well at the White House. But now she's like, what could scare me after the White House? And now she volunteers. She's like, "Oh, I'll do that retirement ceremony. I'll speak to the press thing that comes up." It's become her comfort zone in a world that she thought she didn't even know she could be good at. And how empowering is that?
Yep. And see, this is what we do. We make the impossible possible. When you see that there's room for improvement and you get used to improving as a habit, there's no telling where you can go. And that is like, to me, that's entrepreneurship wrapped in a bow. This is what we need to do, is get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's the colloquialism, but we get to habitually rehearse transcending our comfort zone and knowing that we survived, number one, but that we did a better and better and better job the more often we did it. It's like anything else, like learning how to ride a bike, but specifically when it comes to taking risks and creating value for other people in this world, like this is what I like geek out on with being an entrepreneur and being a parent, is that I'm paying that forward. I'm living and embodying the culmination of all those risks and all of the rewards that I've gotten to come behind it, because I stepped out of what was in the blinders, in the purview of this is what you do. You sit down, shut up, and behave. You go to college, you get a job, you get a house with a picket fence and 2.5 kids. I have taken so many risks that have deviated from that storyline that now I wonder why that storyline exists at all. And I believe that most entrepreneurs out here are actually taking a good hard look at, well, if that wasn't true and that was easier to overcome than I thought, what else is possible? And from that place, this is where we all get to really define what the world is becoming, because we are the leaders now that get to embrace and create the new world that gets to come after the industrial age. Like, we're not pieces of machinery. We have technology that can replace the need for us to sit down and do repetitive, boring tasks. Now we get to love each other, create value, fall in love with our clients, and then become friends and stuff. And that creates a whole new paradigm. And that, to me, it's exciting. That's the world that we're building. And then we get to leave it to our kids.
Ah, how beautiful. No, really, I mean, I, I was proud of the work I did in IT. I created good programs that helped San Diego Gas and Electric track its hazardous waste, like the kind of thing you say when you're a kid. That's what I want to grow up to be, a hazardous waste tracker.
Right.
But and I made friends. I'm still friends with some of those people from many years back. But there wasn't that feeling on a daily basis of making a difference in someone's life, making a difference in changing the world. Because I'm not just making that person better when they speak. It's just this waterfall of, once they're speaking better, the people they work with understand the material. They can go do their thing better. Some people actually go on to speak at conferences. So that's 100 people who are absorbing from it. So it's just this lovely, I don't want to say pay it forward, because it's not about benefits. It's about the fact that the world becomes a better place the more people who can do things well.
Yeah. Well,
Bad communication serves nobody. It
nobody.
just creates problems for that. There's an aspect of my business where I do team building. My background is in improvisation, as I mentioned. I use improv in that speech about moving past the fear of failure. I get the whole audience playing improv games with me in that. In team building, I'm using that. And one of the best compliments I ever got was from a manager who wrote me a month later, and he said, "Most of my management time was putting out interpersonal problems between the people here all day long." He said, "Now everyone is getting along so well that I actually have time to manage projects. And we're accomplishing so much more. It's the same number of hours in the week, it's the same people, but because we're communicating better, we're getting more done." And how wonderful is that? They didn't have to bring in more resources or spend more money. They just needed to get through bad communication.
Yeah. And this is the thing, the better it gets, the better it can get.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, pay it forward is kind of like that ripple effect beyond your intent, but that's impact. I had somebody call me probably 6 years after we had an interaction, and she was like, now I understand why you were doing what you were doing back then when we were friends and you were like not going back to work in the city and you had your kids at home. I was wondering, like, you're nuts, why are you doing this? And then later she had two kids, and then she realized she could go to the city and make big money, but she wound up having that example that, like, I wasn't trying to pay that forward, I was just doing me. But she had that example in her mind. She's like, oh my God, I get it. Like, it's about prioritization. It's about making choices and sacrifices based on what is really important to you. And nobody can tell you what that is. This is why
No.
the world of course creation is nice to have, but doesn't create as much meaning as having someone by your side working through exactly your custom situation. Because this world is not ever going back to one size fits all. I think that was detrimental. And we are the change makers that gets to impact people, not only by the work we do, but the people that we are because of it and the lives we get to lead. So we can really make an impact for our communities, for our family, and for our clients and beyond that. So,
taking that
Milo,
taking taking
yeah.
that to the public speaking coaching stuff, the one size fits all. One of the questions I ask people up front when we first get together is, tell me about some speakers that you admire. Who do you like? And there was one time I was talking to someone, and she said, oh, I guess if I could speak like anyone, it would be that Martin Luther King. And I kind of cringed a little bit. She goes, do you not think he's a good speaker? I'm like, oh, one of the great speakers of all time, but he was a preacher. You're talking about inner peace and finding harmony. The last person in the world you should speak like is Martin Luther King. So I had to show her examples of excellent speakers who are better examples for her to follow in her path, because we had to help her develop her style to be the best. I'll give her a name, the best Debbie she could be, not top, not Martin Luther King, not Susie Orman, not whoever else she thought was good. She had to be her best of her.
Yeah. Don't be a 2.0. That's not what this world is about. There's enough room for everybody. People do business with people they know, like, and trust. And for you to be the best you can be is better for everybody else because you give them permission to be them too.
Yeah.
So, Milo, this has been an awesome conversation. I've gotten a ton of value from, like, your perspective and the play that comes with improv and the structure around starting where you are and getting help for exactly where your tough spots are. And I mean, I've heard you give some feedback to other speakers, and I know firsthand how spot on you can be. So, how can people come to find you if they want to learn more?
Sure. If you're interested in any of the things I said with team building or me being a speaker at a conference, it's just my name, miloshapiro.com. But if you know that the part that interests you is, yeah, I'd like to be a better speaker, I'd like to give a particular presentation better, I've got a wedding speech I got to give, whatever it is, you can shortcut through the website and go right to the one that I have listed up here, publicdynamics.com.
Sweet. High five. This has been
Ow,
awesome.
felt it.
Thank you for spending some time with us. And remember to rise and shine. Get your you on out there. You don't need to be anybody else. We broadcast every single Monday at 7:30 a.m. Eastern time. So click like, subscribe, and give us a comment down below. What was most powerful and meaningful for you so we can continue to bring you more of the content that matters to you. For now, cheers. See you next time, friends. Same bat time, same bat channel. Adios.
Here's
Bye,
the good
Milo.
vacation Beijing.
Yes. Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious making. Bye.